Hi everybody, this is Wayne Hilton. Welcome to my home and welcome to the next episode of The Consummate Host. If you remember in our last episode, we were talking about ideas and inspirations for setting up your at-home coffee bar. Well, today we're going to move to another room and we're going to talk about ideas and inspirations for setting up your at-home cocktail bar. But before that, I have some exciting news that I really can't wait to share with you. I had mentioned last week when I was talking about my Dolce & Gabbana Bialetti espresso maker that I was hoping to maybe go see the closing of the Dolce & Gabbana exhibit at the Grand Palais in Paris. Well, guess what? I'm going. I got my ticket to the exhibit and I'm going to be going the last weekend in March. I would like to ask you a huge favor. If there's any of you out there that have suggestions for hidden gems, places that you love in Paris, I'm really at that point where I would love to discover some little secrets that maybe you love. So you can reach out to me on Instagram at The Wayne Hilton, or shoot me a comment on YouTube and share your ideas. I would love to hear what you have to say and I would love to take inspiration in what you're thinking. So the name of the exhibit, the Dolce & Gabbana exhibit, is called From the Heart to the Hands. And it's really about how passion is what ignites our abilities to create things. So as we talk about ideas for your home bar today, I'd like all of us to keep that in mind, from the heart to the hands. Let's have some fun. So I'm gonna start by sharing what I've done with my home bar, which I built about 6 months ago. But before we get into that, I'd like to remind you, kind of like I was talking last week when we were talking about setting up your at-home coffee bar, the way you approach it is really do it for you and your needs and what you want out of it. I had this space where I could build something. Maybe you have less space, maybe it's just a countertop space in your kitchen, or even a bar cart. It doesn't matter. Think about what you want, how you want to do it, and approach doing it from that standpoint. So let's start. The first thing that inspired me was I found this cabinet right here at the Restore. So Restore is basically like a thrift store for building materials that supports Habitat for Humanity, and they're all over the US, so you can find great project inspirations there. So this was a double oven cabinet that somebody had ripped out of their kitchen, obviously when they did a remodel. So I used it as the base for what I wanted to do with my bar. So this awesome wall covering is a self-adhesive wall covering that I got from Spoonflower. I love Spoonflower. It's a great resource for wall coverings, fabrics. They also have ready-made items like pillows and curtains. They've got literally hundreds of thousands of designs, and they can even do a custom design for you. But I started with that. I completely recovered the cabinet, painted it, added the molding, and it was really kind of the anchor for creating the bar. Then I added the stemware racks at the top. I put the mirror in the back. I added the shelf here. Because this was an existing kitchen cabinet, which was a standard measurement, it's 30 inches wide, I was able to get this really great illuminated stair-step pedestal at the bottom to put all of my liquors on. So that really created the anchor of what was going to become my bar. So then from there, I knew that I wanted a wine fridge. So I did the wine fridge, and I also wanted to have a little extra storage. So I did this small base cabinet. And because of the location of my light switch and the outlet that all this goes into, I didn't want to do like a big electrical project when I was creating the bar. So this kind of became the limitation as far as size goes. I did the birch chevron patterned countertop, painted it chartreuse because why wouldn't you? And used that based on this dimension. I added the adjustable shelves so that if I ever need to change the dimensions of the shelves because of the barware that I have, I can. My monkey light, which I'm in love with, unfortunately, he only came in black and gold, so I had to paint him white so he would kind of go with my vision. I keep my barware here, and if you look at the backdrop, you can see I used vintage LP album covers to create the backdrop. And the top of the bar is actually, it's like faux tin ceiling, you know, like the old tin ceilings you would see in historic homes. It's a plastic version of that I had used in a remodel in my kitchen and had a little bit of leftover, so I wanted to repurpose it, and I used it for the top of my bar. So that's kind of the basis. I want to show you what I did on the end. So as I mentioned, we were set on using the dimension of this space, but I didn't want to waste the end of the cabinet. So we took the extra piece of countertop that we had to cut off, and I made this table on the end. So this gave me a space to bring in another monkey lamp to keep my hanging monkey company, and add this shelving so that we have places for additional glassware. So let's talk about the liquors that you want to select for your home bar. I like to start with what I call the solid 7. So these first 7 liquors are basically the liquors that are going to get you through the basic cocktails that you might want to make. What are they? We have vodka, gin, tequila, rum, bourbon, scotch, and whiskey. So how do you pick which ones of these liquors you want to use? I think it's personal preference. Obviously, there's different levels. Some are very expensive, some are top shelf. Really what matters is the ones that you like. You probably already have an idea about the liquors that you prefer. You probably have friends that have given you suggestions. Maybe you've gone to a bar or restaurant that has a favorite cocktail. You can ask them what they use. However you find your inspiration, just make it about you. I'll use an example. Let me tell you about this rum. I was in North Carolina last October, and I went to the Muddy River Distillery in Mount Holly, right outside of Charlotte. Amazing experience. This is their Carolina Silver rum. I loved it, sent several bottles home, and I will always think of that trip when I drink this, but that really influenced my decision to select this particular liquor. You can do the same when you're picking your liquors. Think of something that inspires you or just something that you prefer taste-wise. So let's talk about the basic cocktails we can create using our solid 7 liquors. So vodka, we get martinis, cosmopolitan, vodka tonic, Moscow Mule. With gin, gin and tonic, gin martini, Negroni. Tequila, popular for margaritas, palomas, tequila sunrise, ranch water. With rum, we have mojitos, daiquiris, rum and coke, pina colada, Mai Tai. With bourbons, we do an old fashioned, Manhattan, a hot toddy. With scotch, obviously scotch and soda, Rob Roy, a rusty nail. And then with whiskey, we can do a whiskey sour, mint julep, Irish coffee. That gets us through our basics. So beyond the solid 7, how do you curate other liquors into your bar? Well, like I said before, follow your heart. Do what pleases you. Let me tell you what I do. So I love Japanese whiskeys. So I have a couple in my selection. This one in particular is from Kyoto, Japan. I discovered this when I was in Kyoto. It's the only whiskey distillery in Kyoto. I love the flavor, so I always have this on hand, and also it's got this awesome fabric label on the front. So I love that about this. I love the Bouchant, which is a cognac with orange liqueur. It's got liqueurs of 3 oranges. This is awesome for like an aperitif or a digestif, so love to have that. And with that, also absinthe, same thing, great for mixing cocktails, but also great on its own. As I said, aperitif, digestif, fabulous. Then, actually last weekend, I was in southern New Mexico and discovered a distillery in Tularosa called the Tularosa Distillery and Tumbleweed Lounge, and they specialize in sotols. So a big shout out to Heather, Peter, and Robert at the Tumbleweed Lounge for turning me on to this and making me a great cocktail. So I'm so happy to have this sotol in my collection as well. So as you can see, I like to curate the extra liquors based on taste, experience, and really the type of cocktails I want to make. And now we're going to talk about glassware. So I call this the first 5. These are our first 5 basic glasses that, once again, kind of like our liquor, get us through the basics of our cocktails. So the first is highball. The second is a old-fashioned or lowball or rocks glass. Third is martini glass. Fourth is a wine glass. And finally, we have a Collins. So now let's talk about the drinks that we would use these glasses for. Highball glass for gin and tonics, vodka soda, mojito. An old-fashioned glass or the lowball or rocks glass is great for old fashions, Negronis, or a whiskey sour. Martini glasses, obviously for a martini, a cosmopolitan, maybe an appletini. Wine glass, we're actually going to do another episode specifically on wine glasses, but just a good basic wine glass for reds and whites. And then the Collins glass, great for a Tom Collins, a highball cocktail, or fizzy drinks. So many times people ask, okay, what's the difference between a highball and a Collins? And it's really a simple answer. Technically, the highball is used when you're gonna have a liquor and a single ingredient, usually like a soda or something carbonated. And a Collins is usually used when you're gonna have a liquor and multiple ingredients. So that's really the difference between a highball and a Collins. So now that we've got our first 5, we might consider adding a champagne flute, a coupe, and a snifter. Champagne flute, obviously great for champagne, can also be used for mimosas and bellinis. A coupe glass is awesome for a sidecar, a daiquiri, or a pisco sour. And the brandy snifter, obviously brandy, cognac, maybe even aged whiskey. So one of the last things I'd like to talk to you about is something that I call objects of affection. What are the special touches you can add to your bar space that make it uniquely you and welcome your guests? So I have several on my bar that I'm going to share with you. The first is this crazy monkey picture. I love this picture. I bought this at an art auction, paid way too much money for it, but I love it so much and it lives on my bar with the other monkeys. The decanters I have in my bar are all family pieces, really 3rd generation. So it just makes me feel so good when I see these because it's an element of my family that's tied into the bar. This heart sculpture was a gift from a really dear friend. So I filled it with rice, and then I've put all of my blown glass swizzle sticks. These are from a trip to Mexico. I put all my swizzle sticks into the heart. So it's kind of an art piece. I love that. This is the lighter I use to light the candles, and if you look close, there's a picture of Kwajalein Island. This is a tiny atoll in the Marshall Islands that I grew up on. So I love having this at the bar. It reminds me of some special memories. And finally, this picture, which is on a shelf on the end of the bar, is my grandmother. My grandparents were from southern New Mexico and raised quarter horses. And this is a picture of my grandmother in 1955 showing a quarter horse. So these are all special things that I love to have near me that I think really represent me on the bar and make my guests feel welcome. I hope I've given you some ideas for setting up your at-home bar. It's been so nice sharing this time with you today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Our manifesto moment for today is sparkling glassware makes everything taste better. Don't forget to send me those Paris ideas. Looking forward to hearing from you on that. And please join us next week when we go behind the scenes of planning and executing my birthday party. Have a great day.